Greetings, dear friend. Once again, I've decided to have a chat with a friend from Twitter, um, an app that brings people together that wouldn't normally find each other. I encountered this individual on my timeline, and actually, I heard you chatting to AYZ. Cheers, brother. Um, and I noticed one thing that kind of went by the wayside was that not only are you an author, but you're also a fighter. Is that accurate?
Super accurate, man. Thank you
Mm.
for having me here. And yeah, I'm also a fighter, like been since I was 15, on and off.
Hmm. Well, we'll get to the which came first, but of course I'm chatting with my man Sebastian Hidalgo, who's a writer, perhaps because of the many worlds he's lived in. I guess we'll get there along the way. But how's your world treating you these days, my friend?
It's been I've been doing pretty well. Like life is good. Can't
Mm.
complain. What about you?
You know what? We're both talking here, so yeah, no complaints for me. Let's start up with just a little warm up. You're a fighter. Not too many folks are, but it's not unheard of. They say Hemingway was a boxer. I guess, in your opinion, do the two things go hand in hand? Not necessarily in a sense of conflict, whether it's in words or physical, but is it the rawness of fighting? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think. You brought up the topic. What came first? What came first was the writing, because my family tried to get me into karate when I was a kid, and I didn't like it. So I started writing like at 12, and then at 15, I started like getting into fighting. And the thing is that they play into each other a lot, because for me, I wasn't a good writer until the moment I became a better athlete and a better fighter. I like to see it that way.
Hmm. Is that just kind of like a mind and body kind of like in unison, or did it kind of inform your words through like the competition?
Both, because it's kind of mind and body, because the discipline it takes to do martial arts, the commitment you have to put into it to be better, that plays a lot into something like writing, where you are just alone with yourself and you have to overcome like certain hurdles and moments like are probably shit. So that helped. And yeah, it informs my words up to some extent. It's like this concept of struggle is something I take a lot from fighting and bring into writing.
Mm-hmm. You begun this journey in Venezuela, actually in South America, for the first 10 years of your life. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Let's just do a little bit of kind of a tail of the tape on Venezuela. What does the Southern Hemisphere do better than the Western Hemisphere, since that's where I'm hanging?
That's that's a tough one, but I think like knee-jerk reaction would be like telling you like the southern hemisphere does better at humanity,
Hmm.
because we are such warm people. Like there is at least to South America, there is a carelessness that I think the Western Hemisphere could embody more, like worrying less about the future and being more in the present.
That's well said. Um, to be honest, you're one of the first folks I've ever talked to from South America, I'm ashamed to say. But it does seem like, if I were to characterize the two hemispheres as I've engaged them, it seems like the Southern Hemisphere is more present and the Western Hemisphere is jaded, is it not?
Yeah, yes, I feel like this duality. I feel like I belong to both, and you get this jaded feeling to the Western Hemisphere. You are like stressed out. We live in a constant like state of worry right now, of fear at
Hmm.
times. So yeah, I you're right. It's
Hmm.
jaded.
Well, since we're talking fighting words, and the marriage with writing, what would you say is your writing style? Let's go there first. Is it true that you wrote a book in 30 days?
Yeah, E16 actually.
Why? What's going on there?
Well, it was, I had this idea. It came off a tweet. On Twitter, authors do something like an hashtag is called VSS365. It's one very short story a day, like in the space of a tweet.
Hmm.
One of my
Now,
writing friends liked the tweet, and I was like, they were like, okay, you should put this into a book. And after a while, they convinced me. The thing is, I had 1 month until I started a day job, and I thought I wouldn't have the time to keep writing this idea during the day job, not as much as I want to, because I like, when I have a strong idea, I like to go about it fast.
mm,
So I decided to do it in 1 month, and it turned out to be 16 days.
it's more discipline than I have. They always have like Inktober as an artist, and you're supposed to draw a picture a day. I usually make it through the first week, but um, what about like since the first 10 years in Venezuela, were there fighters? Were you a fan of comic books or sports? Like, who were your kind of physical role models early on?
I was very I was very by myself as a kid. I had like this thing. I had friends. I didn't have any particular physical role models because I wasn't attracted by fighting at all. I wasn't even a reader, but I was a consumer of like documentaries, and besides cartoons, I used to watch like documentaries and stuff about history. So that gave me a pretty good background to what later became my first book. So yeah,
Hmm.
I was like, I also got a lot into fights though. Besides not liking, even though I didn't like martial arts per se, I used to get into a lot of fights at
Hmm.
school.
Well, I guess we're not talking fighting styles yet. Let's save that for a different continent. But what else? Like, if you were just kind of talking about your experience in Venezuela to somebody who didn't know it well, you've mentioned like being present and embracing life. Is there something that you learned from them before you moved on to your next stop? What did you learn from that country?
That's a tough one. Why did I learn from that country? I think I think Venezuelans are a folk of risk takers, and that shows in many people, many immigrants I've met, like across Europe, that were from Venezuela too. And I think that my lack of aversion for risk, I got it from the Venezuelan mindset, because
Hmm.
people have this thing like, if you want to try something, just try and see how it goes.
Hmm.
And that's something that I think comes from there, and that I appreciate really a lot, because I think in life and fighting, it helps.
I like it. I like it. Well, let's ground it a little bit on the way out. Maybe your favorite author or their favorite fight scene on the page in popular fiction. Is there any that come to mind?
On the page,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is a little bit like this is a little bit niche, but there was
Mm-hmm.
this author who wrote a saga called The Left Hand of God. It's like a fantasy saga written by Paul Hoffman. It isn't that well known. It was pretty trashed by the critics, but that guy knew how to write a fight scene. Like, he had this main character who was a teenager with fighting abilities that came from a concussion,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, I think he really shaped my way of writing fight scene, because he had this way of laying down action sequences and being very descriptive about them without being heavy. So
Mm.
that was great.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. When somebody's writing a fight scene, or let's say you're writing one, what do you need to convey to the reader? Are you talking body language or impact? What do you feel hits for you?
For me, in a fight scene and in an action scene, I would say that you want to make the reader feel like either they are fighting themselves or they are witnessing that fight. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to like be precise and realistic about how the characters move and how like each character reacts to certain moves, and then you have to put it down in a way that's still engaging, because it's quite easy to make it heavy. If you make it too detailed, you fall into like really slow pacing. But if it's a fight, you want to keep it fast. So I have to keep this
Yeah,
balance between description and pacing.
I feel you. Big ups to the left hand of God. We'll get you. Honestly, oddly enough, I think my favorite fight scenes came from Stephen King, like obscure stuff. But Dark Tower, when that gunslinger's in town, I know it's a gunfight, but there's a lot of physical stuff. You're just like, ooh, can feel it. I think,
You know, the Dark Tower is a fucking great saga. The Gunslinger, that had great fight scenes. I completely forgot about that.
well, a king usually puts you in the scene. I think there's a story in 4 After Midnight for you deep cutters, but yeah, no, I think when I'm writing a fight scene or when I'm thinking about one, the reader's got to panic a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
they got to feel the impact of one of those blows. So, yeah, no, I echo that sentiment. Well, what about now, brother? We live in a complicated time. Are you still fighting and writing currently?
Yes, I am. I am currently not writing because, you know, the effort in April that got me. Like, I think creativity is like a muscle. You can get sore, and you can get injured if you overdo it.
Mm,
At the moment, I consider my writing a recovery, because that was really stressful on the creative vein. But
I
I'm
like
still
it.
fighting, and I
Mm,
was still fighting even during the pandemic, like kind of secretly.
I feel you. Hey, it's no secret. We're all fighting something. No, I like it. Give some love to Venezuela on the way out. Send some shout outs, elevate some folks, and then we'll make some cuts out of here.
Well, you know, I'd love to give a shout out to like childhood friends, stuff like that, to my family who's still there. Like,
Mm,
it's a struggle. They probably won't listen to this because they don't have decent internet, but you know, much love.
same. All right, brother. Well, if you have some links, we'll find those in the details. And if you're looking for a fresh voice, well, you may have found one. It's a pleasure to chat with you. And I think if we get opportunity, we're gonna take your next stop, and that would be in Italy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That would be
Mm.
interesting.
Oh, dude, it's hectic to connect over time zones. You know that, brother. It's a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for being so flexible, man. I know
Hey,
it's a pain in the ass with me being in Europe, but yeah, we made it.
hey, that's my fighting style, brother. I adapt.
That's cool.
All right, cheers, guys.